Welcome back to Banging the Can, the Houston sports show that does not apologize for championship rings and tings, presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin, and the fourth pick in the 2023 NBA draft goes to your Houston Rockets. Man, the disappointment in the NBA draft lottery results is palpable for Rockets fans. Getting the fourth pick isn't even what necessarily sucks, and I don't think that's what the fan base is up in arms about. I think it's that we got the fourth pick and the San Antonio Spurs got the first pick. That was the worst case scenario, right? I mean, really worst case scenario would have been that we fell to fifth or sixth and the Spurs got the first pick. But generally speaking, this is not what any of us wanted, right? Like, I think our fan base's expectations greatly contributed to the amount of disappointment you are seeing on Twitter, on social media, in the streets, at the bars, because I think those expectations were set by 3 years of losing. 3 years of lottery life kind of culminated in everybody feeling like we should get at least one number one pick, right? Like 3 years of losing our asses off, being absolute garbage, mostly unwatchable, and we've gotten a number 2 pick, a number 3 pick, and now a number 4 pick. And I know that I feel like I was really able to talk myself into Victor Wembanyama happening for us. Like, I could feel it. I was so stoked going into watching this. I was like, it was bedtime for my 3-month-old son, and I was supposed to be putting him to sleep, but like my wife was handling the 4-year-old, and I was downstairs watching the lottery that was supposed to start right at 7 p.m. Now, of course, it didn't. They hyped it up for another 10, 15 minutes or whatever before they finally got into the results. And he was starting to get like fussy, and I was explaining to him like, look, this could change the entire course of your little life. If we get this Frenchman, everything is going to be different. You'll grow up rooting for this 7'4" or 7'5" or however tall. They kept like adding inches to his height as the night went on. I was like, what the fuck is happening? How tall is this guy? And I was excited, man. I was leading up to us getting number 4, like as they, counted down, like with the number 10 pick, with the number 9 pick, with the number 8 pick, with the number 7 pick, 6 pick, 5 pick. And then they went to commercial, and I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, my heart rate was spiking. I had adrenaline. I had goosebumps. I felt like I was going to fucking throw up. And then we got number 4. Quattro. 4. I was just kind of like, of course. And everything would have been fine if, like, the Detroit Pistons had gotten the number 1 pick. I wouldn't give a shit, frankly. Because I do believe the Rockets have a good young core. I do. Like, the combination of Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Şengün with a new coach in Ime Udoka is something for us to be excited about. I feel good about where the Rockets are at with their rebuild. I really genuinely do. But that doesn't mean all the frustration from the past 3 years, ever since the day that James Harden walked out the door, has just been this nonstop shitstorm. And that resulted in me feeling like we deserved it, like we had earned it somehow. And it's only ever so often, like, this is the most hyped player since LeBron James. They don't come around that often, these guys, that everybody knows this is a consensus number 1 pick. This is the guy getting drafted first. He's an arm and a leg above everybody else. He is that dude and could be one of the greatest basketball players in the history of the sport. And that's what's been going on with Victor Wembanyama. And I'll get to his expectations in a few moments. But generally, if you love the Rockets and you love the NBA, you were probably somewhere close to where I was at in terms of like, oh my God, we could really do this. And when we made it past number 5 to the top 4, we made it past the commercial break, I was like, oh, this could really happen. I really, really talked myself into it. I was there mentally. And no, it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. And the irony, of course, is that I believe the case is that if we hadn't beaten the Spurs in the coin flip, we would have ended up with their numbers. Therefore, the number 1 pick in the draft would have been ours. which is just very Houston right now, especially after what happened with the Texans failing to lose their final game of last season, resulting in us getting the number 2 pick instead of the number 1 pick. And yes, I think we're all happy with the way that turned out in the end, but this is not that. It's not like we can I don't know. I don't know what we'll do. Maybe it will be that. Maybe we will do some crazy shit that makes all of us even more excited for next season. But even if that doesn't happen, I think we're in a good spot with what we've got. Getting a new head coach that actually knows what he's doing with basketball was a huge piece of the puzzle that we now have in place. But it still hurt immediately afterward when you saw that Houston Rockets logo come up for the 4th pick. You're just like, oh, you've got to be fucking shitting me. 4? Fucking 4? And then things got a lot more real when San Antonio did not get number 2, and suddenly you knew they were going to get number 1. They're fucking whatever that goofy white dude they had up there representing them jumped up out of his chair and was celebrating, which did feel like a moment that could come back to haunt them in meme form if indeed Victor Wembanyama does not pan out the way people expect, or perhaps cannot stay healthy. More on that in a minute. But this guy, Victor, is a unicorn unlike anything we've seen in terms of an NBA prospect, with his all-around game and his frame. No, there isn't really a comparison. He's I don't even, Yao Ming times Kevin Durant times Giannis Antetokounmpo. They kept showing that replay of him shooting a 3-pointer and getting his own tip dunk, which is not a thing I've never seen that happen. And just anywhere, not just in the NBA. I've just never seen that anybody do. He's so gigantic in length that is a thing he's able to do. He's a freak show. He is the definition of a freak. Giannis has the nickname the Greek Freak. That needs to be passed. This dude is a freak. This is an actual freak. And he's 19 years old. He seems to have a good head on his shoulders. I mean, him being coached by Greg Popovich is not what we wanted as Rockets fans. It's not what we wanted. And that was the really defeating part. Just why San Antonio? God, why? Please, anywhere else. Fucking Detroit would have been beautiful. Nobody gives a shit about the Pistons. They're not in our fucking division. I would have been fine with that. But this hurt. It hurt. And I'm still wrapping my head around it. I can't believe it happened. I didn't really realize how long it had been since we heard from Spurs fans. I think I took that for granted. I took for granted that we got a few years here since Kawhi Leonard left where we didn't have to hear from the Spurs mob, because they are so fucking annoying. They're so fucking annoying. And I live in Austin, Texas, which is notably a Spurs town. I don't know why. It sucks, frankly. But you go into a gas station, you got Dallas Cowboys hats and you got San Antonio Spurs hats. That's what this city chose. They don't have any professional sports here outside of soccer, so they don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're bandwagoning teams that are not my teams, and I hate it. But I can't stand when the Spurs are relevant. It's awful, because they did have a dynasty with Tim Duncan and Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. That was a real NBA dynasty. And during that time period, I hated talking to my Spurs fan friends, man. And I even have one of my best friends is a Spurs fan. And I tried to live this night vicariously through him after the draft lottery took place. And it didn't even work. I couldn't even be happy for him, because I'm just so pissed off that we have to watch Pop, who is inarguably one of the greatest basketball coaches in history, now work with this unicorn freak show that we did not get a chance to draft, or will not get a chance to draft. So it was a lot to take in, a lot to deal with mentally. And I think it just, I saw a lot of commentators and sports talk people and people with Twitter fingers saying Rockets fans who were so disappointed about this didn't have realistic expectations. Now, here's the thing about that I believe took place. you take the combined experience of Houston sports over the last several years, and I'm mainly talking about the Texans and the Rockets, because obviously the Astros have been quite good, but even with the Astros, there has been disappointment. The 2019 World Series, Game 7, that would be a great example, right? Like there have been a lot of things that happened over the last several years in Houston sports that have been massively disappointing. Watching Bill O'Brien dismantle the Houston Texans, losing Deshaun Watson to massage issues. Like there've been to him being a sexual predator, allegedly. There've been a lot of things that have happened that have been disappointing. And the Rockets, for me personally, have always been like my first love when it comes to Houston sports. Like I grew up during the Hakeem Olajuwon era where we won back-to-back championships. I'm a big fan of basketball. I love playing it. And to watch them suck as much as we have over the last few years, which is extremely unusual for us because we were so competitive during the Daryl Morey era. We always made the playoffs every fucking year. It's been disheartening. It's been a beating. And I think the combined experience of all of that disappointment sort of led to like, we just wanted something, right? It's the reason we were all so stoked when the Texans actually did something during the NFL draft, because it was like, oh, thank God. They did something. They fucking tried. At least they're making waves. And we felt like maybe if we could just get that number 1 pick, get this French unicorn in a Rockets jersey, maybe that would mean things were going to change. And I mean, if you just on paper, if you look at, if we had Wembanyama with the other guys that we've got, oh my God, we would have had a fucking insane young team. I mean, we would have had a shitload of national TV games. We just got this new hot coach. We got a stew going at that point. Not to say that we don't anyway. It's just not quite as spicy as it would have been had we gotten Victor in. So, I mean, I'm still kind of reeling from it. It was, I think I let myself get too invested in the idea that it could really happen, and it didn't. And for those of you who like, oh, the NBA draft is rigged, come on, that's foolish. You're being ridiculous. You think the NBA would rig the draft so a once-in-a-lifetime unicorn freak show generational talent would go to San Antonio? A small market team? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Yes, they have like the French history with Tony Parker and Boris Diaw or whatever the fuck. But they would never, in terms of a financial win, this is not really one for the NBA. Like, they were getting a financial win no matter what with this guy coming over, in all likelihood, if he can stay healthy, right? But they wouldn't have picked San Antonio if it was rigged. And I don't think the Spurs or their ownership like carries more weight really in any way than we do as the Houston Rockets. I just don't. That's not, I don't buy into that at all. I realize we're all upset with how things went, but look, realistically, we still have a chance at Scoot. We still have a chance at Scoot Henderson. Like the two teams that are in front of us that are not the Spurs both already have star guards, point guards. They don't need another one. But like, as long as we landed in the top 4 somewhere, we were going to get an impact player. It just now boils down to who exactly that's going to be. What, holes are they looking to fill in our lineup, and what does Ime think is best for us? And, of course, our general manager, Raphael Stone, as well. So, I mean, we'll just have to play the waiting game at this point. But, yeah, it's like it's been tough sledding out there in the Rockets fan Twitter realm and on the message boards and on Clutch fans. A lot of disappointment, a lot of bickering, bitching, a lot of bitter people currently. It did not help when that video surfaced of Wembanyama seemingly celebrating the Rockets getting the number 4 pick. Like they were like, with the 4th pick, the Houston Rockets. And he was like, yes, like he was trying to avoid us. It hurt. It hurt to see that clip go viral. Like ESPN put it on and shit. Like they were like, the Rockets. Because we've kind of been a laughing stock over the last few years with John Wall shitting all over the team and everybody talking about how fucking out of control the culture is for Rockets players. It was just like, oh my God, now we've got this French guy laughing at us. What the fuck have we done? This is ridiculous. But, hopefully that serves as motivation on some level for these guys. I saw Jabari Smith Jr. reacted to it. He's taking notes. And he looked great. the back half of last season. He really, really did. If he can continue to improve, have a great sophomore year, if Jalen can make the jump in his third season, if coach can get all these guys on the same page, if Şengün can continue cooking the way he's been cooking, we're going to be better. We might not be a playoff team yet on paper as it stands right now, but they have a lot of they have a ton of cap room. We've got picks. We've got options. So just let them cook. We'll see what the Rockets bring to the table when it's all said and done. But as far as Wembanyama goes, now that we're on the other side of not getting him, we can bring up some of the obvious red flags that come with this guy, which mainly the fact that he is built like a fucking cartoon character. Every single player we have seen come in with freakish height and length like him has trouble staying healthy. Everybody that's a Houston fan remembers what it was like having Yao Ming. The guy could not keep his feet from breaking. It was every fucking year. Him or McGrady would go down or take turns or sometimes be injured at the same time. We had to bring fucking Ron Artest in to run the team at one point. It was absurd. Obviously, Victor Wembanyama is going to have to adapt to the NBA game. He's been playing in Europe. It is not the same. Anybody who thinks he's just going to come out next season at 19 and own the league is an idiot. That is not going to happen. But within 3 years, it is very possible that he is one of the best players in the league. It is also very possible that he doesn't adjust as well as people think he will, and he'll have trouble staying healthy. That is a very realistic possibility. Nobody wants to say that if you're just a huge all-around NBA fan and don't want to put like the bad karma out there, but that is a very real possibility. It is a chance that it is a lot more difficult for him, especially considering how much weight has put on him. This is the most hyped up player since LeBron James. LeBron delivering at the level he has with those expectations that were set for him is not normal. It's one of the things that makes him such an unbelievable GOAT. That he's lived up to or exceeded those expectations is insane. Most people would be crushed by the weight of that. And like I said, Victor seems to have a good head on his shoulders, but does that mean he'll be able to take it? No, we're going to have to wait and see. It's still a risk. Draft picks in every sport completely fail to live up to expectations all of the time. No one, perhaps in the history of the NBA, has expectations like this guy, because when LeBron was drafted, it was pre-social media. All this Twitter shit and Instagram and all the fucking nonstop 24-hour news cycle, that didn't really exist yet. It does for Victor. It's going to be a whole different ballgame. Now, just to circle back to the biggest thing about it that I was excited for is just the circus that is going to come with this guy, where every single Spurs game is now watchable just to see what he does. The media will be all the fuck over their franchise. The value of the Spurs as a franchise will skyrocket. They'll pick up all these European fans. We saw the effects of that getting Yao from China. We could have seen the effects of that again, and that was the most disappointing thing to me because I was getting excited for that aspect of it too. Regardless of how he pans out as a player, these next few years are going to be a total circus in San Antonio, and it sucks to not get in on that. For them to be in our division is obviously a bummer. So, it was a tough night for Rockets fans, but I think we're okay. It was the more days we put between us and what just happened, I think we'll all start to feel better. Get to the NBA draft in June, see who we take, see what moves the team makes, and then wait to see what Ime can do with these guys. And that's where we're at, all right? And it's okay. We're fine. We're still much, much better off than we were last season. I still think we've taken huge steps in the right direction. I still think regardless of how disappointing the last couple years have been in terms of the win column, we have the young pieces there to build something legitimately special that could compete for the Western Conference. I believe all that. We still have a lot yet to be seen, though. And that's the nature of a rebuild, my friends. That's the way the cookie crumbles. If you're a sports bettor looking for a place to get action during the conference finals of the NBA playoffs or the conference finals of the NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball's regular season, or on UFC fights or boxing matches, and you want to make your picks at a place that supports our show, today's sponsor, MyBookie, is the way to go. Just use code ROSS when you sign up at mybookie.ag, and you will unlock a deposit bonus. Stipulations apply, and you'll get even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting events. MyBookie has all the prop bets, live lines, alternate lines, and futures that you could possibly need for all of the sports all year long. Great online casino as well with live dealers, live blackjack, and live roulette. All the good live stuff. And right now, as I said, if you join the MyBookie family using code Ross at checkout to support the pod, you'll instantly receive a deposit bonus, giving you even more dough to throw at your favorite sporting event. So what are you waiting for? If you're a sports bettor looking for a great platform that also supports your favorite Houston sports podcast, code Ross at mybookie.ag is the way to do it, folks. Just use code Ross to unlock that deposit bonus. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Before we move on from the Rockets, I want to quickly comment on James Harden. Over the last several weeks, I have been able to talk myself into a James Harden reunion in Houston. But after watching the way the whole series shook out with the 76ers and the Celtics, with the Celtics obviously advancing past Joel Embiid and James Harden and Daryl Morey, I can't do it. It's the results of that series in combination with the things that have come out in the press since then about Harden wanting a 4-year deal, max contract. That we absolutely cannot do that. And it's so absurd. At this point, I don't think there's a chance Rafael Stone is considering that. Like, that just doesn't even seem like, look, it's not even about, we're not competing for the playoffs. Who cares that he chokes in the playoffs? That dude is not the guy you want training up your young players. He's just fucking not. He doesn't have the body language, the attitude, the leadership skills. He's got the same issues Tracy McGrady did when it's all said and done. Great player, yes. Hall of Fame caliber, yes. One of the most incredible offensive talents to ever touch a basketball, absolutely. But not the dude I want to give a $200+ million check to come in and fuck up the mentality of the guys we've already got. We just heard culture was the issue with this team. That there's no leadership, that there's no accountability. You think this dude is the guy to do that? I fucking love James Harden. I've said it time and again. There's a painting of him behind my head. And maybe a bobblehead up there somewhere too. I'm pretty sure there is. But you cannot do this if you're Rafael Stone and you want to keep your job. If you're Tillman Fertitta and you're the owner of the team. Absolutely fucking not. I would rather they sign like 3 different veterans who are, a multitude less talented than James, but have leadership skills. That's what fuck all this, dude. The flash and the ability to go off for 40 with 12 assists or whatever, like, I don't care. That doesn't do anything for us long term. He is not going to be here when we raise a banner. It isn't going to fucking happen. If he's looking for 4 years, $200+ million, we cannot be involved in that conversation. We simply cannot. It doesn't make sense. The dude dumped us. And I was able to look past that when the idea was that, like, because I was watching him play this season, I was like, this guy's still on his A game. He's clearly still in his prime. He's leading the league in assists. He's found a way to mesh with this other team and the Sixers, and they're very competitive. But then when push came to shove, yes, he did step up in 2 games for the Sixers in that Celtics series and almost single-handedly win them in Joel Embiid's absence. But when it was all said and done, he still disappeared. He still faded out. He didn't step up. He's not that guy, pal. He doesn't have that dog in him. There's no killer instinct there. And again, it's not that even really fucking matters because we're not looking to compete in that aspect. But the problem for me is that I don't need whatever that is, that poison he's got, leaking down to these young guys. That I can't fucking watch that happen. We do not need that. It's totally unnecessary. Is it fun? As an idea, sure. Was I able to talk myself into it? Yes. You've heard me rant about it nonstop and joke about it. But at this point, jokes are over. It's time to get serious. No. Fuck no, God no. Please, the fuck no. Absolutely no. James Harden is not what we need. He's not what we want. This cannot happen. I love the dude. I wish him well. Godspeed. But just stay the fuck away from our basketball team. Please, God, don't. We don't need it. We don't need it. All right, now moving on. The Astros are making it incredibly difficult to judge where the team is at. Having now completed a sweep of the Cubs with a huge come-from-behind win last night, we were down 6-1 in the 8th inning, and I was like, fucking shit. Like, this is, after what happened with the Rockets draft lottery results, I was just like, I was in a bad place. And then we scored 2 runs in the 8th inning, and I was like, okay, well, I was watching on Gamecast at that point on my phone or whatever, on the Yahoo Sports app, actually. So I was like, well, fuck it, I'll turn it on. And then we scored 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th in an awesome, awesome comeback, including Kyle Tucker's walk-off that scored 2 to win the game, with Bregman being the final run, sliding in safely to home. It was awesome. It was good to see the guys celebrate on the field. It was a huge three-game stretch. Like, that was great. I mean, we're at 24-19 now. 2 games behind the Rangers for the division lead, which still makes me a little sick to my stomach to say. But look, Altuve should be returning to the Astros lineup literally any day now, at some point in the next week. And the team is they're holding it together. It's been weird. We've had a lot of injuries. That's not great. It's not what you want to see, but we're not in a terrible spot. Things are okay. And I think it's hard not to overreact to the slow start. It is. I get it. But we're fine, and we're going to get better. Stay the course, maintain calm, let things work themselves out. That's what I keep telling myself. We did have, so in that Cubs game last night, JP France, who we were starting to get pumped about as a fan base, I think, because he's a guy we brought up to plug in the holes with the injuries to all of our pitchers. And he had his first 2 starts. He was really solid. He looked quite good. And then last night, oh my God, the wheels really fell off to the point that he may have been tipping his pitches, which it's literally the worst case scenario thing you could do as a pitcher is allow the opposing hitters to know what it is that you're throwing. And yes, I realize the irony as those words come out of my mouth. But last night he got the shit rolled out of it. I don't know what he was doing, but the general sentiment after the game, even from JP, did seem to be that he may have been doing something to tip his pitches. They're going to have to look into that. You cannot fucking have that. We saw what happened during the playoffs last season when McCullers Jr. had that happen, and I know he's denied it, and everybody denied it, but if you watched that game, you know what happened. Somehow he was tipping. Whether or not anybody wants to admit it, in the Astros organization, I think we as a fan base are pretty fucking aware of what. You ever seen Lance get hit like that before? Not like that. That was insane. It was every single person who stepped up to the plate. So, yeah, you don't want to be tipping pitches. JP is going to need to get that fixed. But, the Astros season rolls on. Long season. Baseball season. Long. So many games. So easy to let a couple of weeks stretch shake you this way or that in terms of your confidence in the team. It happens to me too. All of the time. And I've been watching sports for a lot of years. I'm aware of this, but it still gets difficult when you go through hard stretches not to be like, oh my God, we suck. We've finally fallen off. It's finally happening. We're not going to be a dynasty anymore. It's going to be a train wreck. We can't stay healthy. This is the year injuries derail the team. It's easy to buy into all that shit. But it's a lot more fun to stay on the other side of that and maintain positivity and hope that things go well. And things are starting to go better. I mean, I'm genuinely pleased with where we are at this point in the season, considering how much we've had go wrong. We're just fine. We're just fine. With a lot to look forward to and a lot of games left. That will do it for today's show. But remember, every episode of Banging the Can is available on youtube.com/@bangingthecan. I appreciate those of you who are there, subscribed, and watching. If you would rather watch than just listen, go to youtube.com/@bangingthecan. And frankly, even if you don't care to watch, I would appreciate you taking the time to subscribe on YouTube. Helps us continue to grow the show. On that note, please share the most unapologetic Houston sports show in existence with your friends and family. Support our sponsors. This week, our sponsor is mybookie.ag. You just use code ROSS when you deposit to unlock a deposit bonus and throw more dough at your favorite sporting event. Check out my media startup, Bolin Media, at bolinmedia.com. My comedy show, The Ross Bolin Podcast, available wherever you consume Banging the Can. Follow us on TikTok at Banging the Can, as well as Twitter and Instagram at Banging the Can. I am Ross Bolin. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WRBOLEN, at WRBolin. I will be back soon. Keep your heads up. Until next time, H-Town, stay down.